Welcome everyone to the Tech Decision Podcast. This is the inaugural episode. In this show, we're going to take the soul-sucking work of researching enterprise technology trends and make it accessible, engaging, and insightful. Each episode dives into the vast world of tech solutions, breaking down complex choices into manageable insights to help you make informed, strategic decisions. Whether you're a seasoned IT professional or a curious newcomer, Tech Decision is your go-to resource. So, a little bit about the sponsor. I'm one of the founders of Tailflow, the sponsor of this show, and it's also hosted by the team at Tailflow. Tailflow is a leading technology selection platform to evaluate vendors for your exact use case. If you'd like to use Tailflow, just go to tailflow.ai and run a free report. Now, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Abhishek Singh. Abhishek is the manager of enterprise systems integration at Toast. Prior to this, he was a principal analyst at Gartner in the application architecture, infrastructure, and integration group. And finally, I'd like to introduce our guest, Tushar Shrivastava. Tushar is a BPM enthusiast and former Gartner analyst with a decade of experience in business process and requirement gathering, process mapping, and management. Abhishek, Tushar, welcome to the inaugural pod.
Thank you for the
Thanks,
intro.
LV.
Sounds good.
So Tushar, what did you cover at Gartner? And can you define the categories you were covering at Gartner? And how were you covering those categories? How were you categorizing all those different areas?
Absolutely. Love to catch up with you guys. And when we talk about Gartner, so within Gartner, the enterprise software was divided into multiple technologies, and one of them was BPM or business process management. BPM per se is a sort of a principle. It's a practice within which there are multiple technologies. And I used to cover three major technologies there. The first of them being business process automation, which is more around end-to-end automation and orchestration of processes. Second is process mining and task mining, which is more around understanding your processes via data, which is present across your system logs on which your process runs. And finally, enterprise business process analysis tools. This is sort of an old version of process mining where you collaboratively model and map your processes in a manual fashion. So those were the three top topics that I used to cover at Gartner.
And just interesting to hear that. And what are you currently doing right now, Tushar? Because you're no longer at Gartner.
So currently I'm a senior product manager at Flowable. So Flowable is one of the leaders in the business process automation market. So that's the first category I used to cover at Gartner. So leading the market guide there for business process automation. So Flowable is sort of an end-to-end automation and orchestration vendor. And I'm linked to the product side of things, where I'm mostly responsible for product roadmaps and also some bit of marketing, where I'm, because of using my Gartner experience in writing some blogs and publishing some success stories. So bringing all of it together for the product side of things. So that's what my current role is.
Gotcha. And what would you say Flowable focuses on in that space? Like, what are the core use cases that it tends to do very well at? And of course, you focus on evangelizing.
Flowable is actually known for handling complex use cases via case management. So case management is a methodology where you actually use certain techniques via modeling a process or a sort of a complex process where multiple actors are involved, maybe humans, maybe systems, maybe multiple sort of departments involved in an organization, in a bank or an insurance company or a healthcare provider. So agnostic to the industry, if it's a complex process, Flowable does that with case management. So Flowable is an evangelist of standards of process automation. So BPMN is one, business process modeling notation. That's the first sort of use case. The second is case management, which I just talked about, which is the most sort of famous. And then finally, it's all about decision management. So creating decision trees and decision tables for underwriting decisions or credit decisions. So those are the use cases that Flowable focuses across industry.
So Tushar, you've talked about the areas that you have covered, which is BPM, and BPM is nothing new. It has been in the industry for quite some time, and now the term has been used interchangeably with a couple of other areas as well. But can you kind of double click on BPM and what all areas does it encompass?
That's very interesting when you say that it's being used interchangeably across multiple software domains, I would say. And I would agree, BPM is one of the most sort of confusing and misused term in the market. Essentially, it's not a technology. Like I said before, BPM is an umbrella term. Or BPM is a practice in itself, like you have multiple practices like Kaizen or others where you look at process holistically. So BPM is a practice where you actually look at the process holistically and understand what's going wrong, and then take a decision of what or which technology that you want to invest in. One of the biggest misconceptions with BPM is that you can buy a BPM technology. That's not correct. You cannot throw technology at any problem that you're having within the organization. And because process is your DNA or gene of the company, which differentiates your company from another company, you need to understand what's going wrong and then apply multiple technologies. And there are stacks of technologies. I can go on and on. But BPM, in a sense, is a practice where you're looking at your process at a very holistic level before taking a decision that we need to throw technology at it. So that's how BPM has to be looked at. And this is what actually a lot of enterprises make sort of wrong decisions in, wherein they think about technologies first and problems second. Whereas BPM advocates, if you look at all the papers that have been written around BPM, the sort of literature that exists, it's more about understanding the issues of the process. What are the inefficiencies? Why are we not delivering the best customer experience, or why is our return policy not delivering? What exactly is happening wrong that we are not able to deliver certain things at a certain point in time? And that's what BPM is all about. And then there are stacks of technology starting from, say, process mining, where you understand the process, then you sort of take a decision what's wrong. And then there's, say, for an example, on top of that, there is RPA or low code sort of technologies, where you do sort of task automation. So RPA is a specialized task automation technology. Similarly, low-code application platforms are more of a task-level automation technologies. And then on top of that, to tie everything together, you have technologies like Flowable, like BPA, business process automation, which ties everything together and orchestrates everything together in an end-to-end fashion. So this is what BPM market broadly is, and these are the technologies it encompasses. Yeah.
So just to quickly summarize, so under BPM we have BPA, RPA, low code, no code. What are we missing?
Process mining, task mining.
Task mining.
Yeah, and you can also say manual process modeling. So there are vendors out there in the market who give you the capability to standalone map and model your processes. So those are the vendors that exist in the market.
And what was the distinction between process mining and task mining? Sounds synonymous to me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So task mining is more about mining sort of data or knowledge from your laptop at a very sort of a very micro level. So for an example, if you're doing a process within, say, SAP, and you're using certain screens every day, 365 days a year, and there's some inefficiency even when you're not using your laptop. There's something that's going in the background which needs to be captured, which is causing inefficiencies. So task mining is more about capturing those micro details. Even say, for an example, if you're using, say, an integration between Microsoft Teams and SAP or Oracle for that matter, and there's some inefficiencies, those need to be captured. And if you go there and capture those manually, it's tough to capture, because if I ask you what's the inefficiency, you might give me two different definitions. Now Abhishek will give me two different definitions. So how you arrive at it is what task mining simplifies. So you have a sort of a factual picture of what is happening at a micro level. Process mining is at a broad level. So for an example, if you're using, say, Microsoft Teams, you're using SAP, you're using Salesforce, it uses the sort of data logs that are generated from these systems, pieces them together, ties them together, and gives you how the process is moving broadly. So what are the inefficiencies? Where does the inefficiency lie? Does it lie within SAP? Does it lie across the system? Where exactly it lies? So it gives you an end-to-end process map. Whereas task mining gives you a micro level sort of a process map, how Abhishek or how Lou is performing a process or a task at their level. Whereas process mining is more of a broader. Yeah.
I see. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Tushar, you have touched upon the point that BPM is a bigger umbrella under which many different category of products lie in, ranging from BPA, RPA, task mining, process mining, and a couple of others as well. However, there are times wherein the executives find it difficult to get the buy-in for the BPM technologies. So why is it important for enterprises to invest in BPM technologies? And can you talk about some of the successful outcomes you've experienced in your previous life or you've advised someone who have kind of successfully led a BPM implementation in their organization?
Absolutely, that's a very great question. And I would say one of the greatest learnings that I had at Gartner was that when you're looking at process or when you're looking at sort of competitive advantage, these are not two very separate things. So, say for an example, just to take two names for an example, Decathlon or Zara, these these two might be very separate sort of entities, one catering to sports sort of genre and other to a fast fashion sort of genre. But in the end, essence is their processes, which actually gives them a sustainable competitive advantage. And that's what lies at the core of their organizations. You can do a lot of marketing, you can go about and do a lot of promotions and so on and so forth. But in the end, if your processes are not delivering, say, delivering products on time to your customers, or your supply chain inefficiencies are not getting solved, or even at the customer front end, if you're not able to generate billing at right time, at right point in time, those are the things that differentiates your organization. And that's why BPM as a practice, and also the technologies that it encompasses, is important for enterprises to invest in, to understand that nothing else differentiates their companies or enterprises from one another. You might have two different banks that are competing, that might on their website you might find they have mortgage sort of consumer mortgage or a house mortgage that might look similar to you, but how they actually perform all the activities behind the scene differentiates two banks or two insurance providers. And that's why you need to invest in BPM technologies, to understand where you lack, what are the inefficiencies, and get better. And that's why you see a lot of interest from the executives from multiple enterprises trying to invest in technologies. And that might be right up to a certain point in time. So if I pick a point in case here, say for an example with RPA, a lot of executives found way back in 2017 or 18 a lot of value in automating task level sort of inefficiencies by RPA, but over a period of time they realize it's not scalable. So you need to understand what is the limitation of the technology that you're using, or whether it's needed at all in your case or not. So yes, there's this hunger in within organizations to solve inefficiencies, reduce time, reduce throughput time, so on and so forth. But yes, you need to understand that BPM can only offer you sort of solutions if you understand your processes well. And that's how you can look at the improvements in the processes. And that's why BPM as a practice is important for the organizations. Hope that
And
answers.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, but what are the usual triggers? Like, so at
Yeah.
what kind of size, what kind of event gets, enterprise IT teams to say, hey, we have to put a BPM strategy in place and we need this urgently? What do you tend to see in different sectors?
I think one of the biggest triggers. So if I start with say banking, the most common that I've seen is when you're sort of having governance issues, when you're having
Mhm.
sort of issues with your credit sort of assessment going wrong over a period of time, and then you realize that these are sort of non-performing assets over a period of time, and you need to understand your processes, how you're taking a credit decision, what exactly you're using. Are these touch-free processes that we intend to make, or are these a lot of manual sort of interventions that are there that make this process unreliable for maybe multiple agencies, not only within the bank, but maybe say governmental agencies also. So the governance issues, that's one of the biggest triggers that I've seen, that you want to make your processes as touch free as possible, specifically in very sort of important sectors like banking and insurance, where the whole system lies, sort of economy lies on that. From consumer perspective, I can say a lot of enterprises struggle with customer experience, especially
Hmm.
now when this omni-channel sort of strategy is playing out. You need to be present to your customer at sort of right channels, right time. You need to deliver. So that's one of the most important triggers, that your supply chain inefficiencies sort of inhibit you to deliver well, or create quality issues, or create sort of customer complaints. And that's why a lot of executives look for BPA technologies or BPM technologies to solve those. So yeah, those are some of the triggers.
And so the main sectors you kind of covered where it seems BPM is top of mind is, so you got financial services, aka banking,
Yeah.
insurance, and so on. The government or public sector, where of course accountability and governance is key, otherwise stuff doesn't
Yeah.
work. And then, like you mentioned, like the omni-channel, consumer-oriented CPG-like firms. So those
Yeah.
would be like the sectors that you tend to see a lot
A
requiring,
lot.
okay, I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, and sometimes the triggers are also internal. So, for an example, if you note, some of the companies actually, when they do internal budgeting, realize that hey, we're putting a lot of, and suppose these companies are publicly listed, you get to know that your competitor is spending, say, 5% of the cost on internal sort of efficiencies that they're sort of able to produce, and you're not able to do that. That's a very high number for you. That's also a very, very sort of strong trigger for bringing in automation, because you tend to know that hey, they're able to generate X amount of dollars with the same cost that you could have also done. But yeah, your profitability is taking a hit. So these are also some factors that trigger a lot of executives.
So Tushar, you've kind of talked about the differences between task mining and process mining, and there is a big buzz around process mining. So
Yeah.
do you feel there is hype around process mining? And what does it all mean when it comes to process mining? What's the area going to look like in a couple of years? What's your take on that?
Yeah, you're correct in the sense that there is some hype around process mining, but it in the same or I would say the other side of the coin is it is delivering. So one of the most successful case studies, and that's published, is from Germany, Siemens, and it's a published case study that they've presented on the process mining forum also, as to how they started way back in 2015 or 16 with process mining, and now they've saved more than 100 million euros or something in the capital expenditure. So that's over a period of time that they've done. So yes, there's a hype. Everyone is listening to terms, and specifically because of certain vendors doing the events, marketing, and so on and so forth. But yes, once you get to understand the benefit over a period of time, that this process has to be understood in a very factual manner, uh, uninhibited by people giving their opinions, then you realize the potential of process mining. Because, for an example, if I ask you how your day looks like for a process, if you work on a process daily, you might give a very different definition as to your colleague or your coworker. And what process mining does is it brings everyone on the same page. So now you have factual information backed by data to tell you, hey, this is what is going around objectively within your organization, and this is what is wrong, you need to focus on. So no politics can come into play. So process mining actually takes out a lot of human factors also within improvement. And I've seen a lot of BPA or RPA projects going wrong because there is internal human conflicts within the organization, which sometimes does not get captured within technologies, blocking these projects. So process mining becomes a catalyst and an enabler in these sort of situations where you have transparently what's going around. And what I see in next 2 to 3 years is that it will become much more prevalent in enterprises who rely a lot on multiple data sources, who are willing to open their data sources to process mining. And also there's this growing trend of AI. So now with process mining, once you have a lot of process models and data which is within your enterprise, not a public LLM, but a private sort of a large language model that you can create. So process mining will be one of the biggest input for that. So if you want to understand how your enterprise might look like in a say 2 years, 3 years down the line, or how you can scale up over a period of time, process mining will play a big role in that, because that captures a lot of data logs for you, a lot of processes for you, and you can feed that into your private large LLMs and train it to see what it will look like. And this is also called, so there's an industry term for that, which is called DTO, or digital twin of the organization. And process mining plays a very crucial role as an input for that also. So once you have that sort of information, you can plan for your future as this is how it will look like over a period of time. And you can plan for multiple even black swan events also, like COVID or other sort of things that might hit you in the future. So that's why I feel process mining has a lot of role to play within enterprises from multiple different angles over a period of time. Yeah.
That's fascinating given what's going on. Do you have any use cases you've seen of process mining, leading to working with LLMs to in this new AI world, or anything you've seen, like kind of describing in real terms what you think the major trend is?
Yeah, so the most common use cases that you'll see in the process mining world is related to the SAP or Oracle processes, like say procure to pay or order to cash. And these are the ones that are most widely used. So these are the most common use cases. And the reason is simple, because you get a lot of data logs for that, because these are the one of the first processes I would say that a lot of organizations have automated using ERPs available out of the shelf in the market. And with regards to AI, it's a work in progress. I've seen some case studies, some public case studies that are there available in the market where executives are trying to actually combine both of these technologies. So they're building their own LLMs within the organization, feeding the data from process mining. But the challenge here is data quality that we see a lot because if the data is unreliable, and if you spend a lot in terms of time and money in training the LLM on basis on that data, then you're going to sort of screw up whole sort of DTO or digital twin that you're going to create over a period of time. So that's the challenge I'm seeing a lot in the initial phases, but yeah, that can be solved over a period of time. For that, process mining also has to get stabilized within the organization. So that's one. The other thing regards to AI is around scalability. Right now, if you look at one or two processes, yes, that's fine. If you start with, say, procure to pay or order to cash, but to get the viability to invest in LLM and those sort of capabilities of machine learning within the organization, you need to have much more sort of involvement of processes, not just one or two of the processes. You need scalability of process mining within the organization first, and then use it into LLM to have real benefit for the organization. So yeah, that's how it looks like. It's a bit complex right now because it's foggy. You cannot see a lot of things right now under the hood, but over a period of time, it becomes clear.
That's fascinating that you're seeing that trend. And when you think about BPM and process mining and LLMs kind of used together, it seems, there's a huge data management component to it to ensure data quality. So I imagine that's another set of parallel tools that the organization has to use and enforce in order to make this even practical, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. I see how BPM and this is now a very wide umbrella for so many different technologies having to work and couple together to make anything useful. Okay, I get it. So just to kind of wrap this up, you are both an expert in BPM and process mining. And if you could just summarize in very specific terms once more for us, the difference between BPM and process mining, where could process mining be used independently of BPM? That would be especially useful. Because there is a distinct category of process mining tools out there, it sounds, and it does sound like it can be a standalone technology for many enterprises looking at a specific use case.
Yeah, absolutely. So BPM, like I said, is sort of a practice, and it encompasses multiple technologies. It consists of multiple technologies, and process mining is a stepping stone to BPM, I would say, if you would put it like that. So process mining gives you sort of a transparent view of your processes and how your organization works, and then you use BPM practices or sort of methodologies to improve the process. So that's the distinction. So process mining is just the first step to achieve excellence via BPM. Then you might need maybe task automation, or you need orchestration, and then you achieve sort of goals what you started with BPM exercise. But BPM is sort of should be looked at from a very broad perspective as a practice, not a technology. So that's the difference. Yeah,
understood.
So I would
go ahead.
I would like to expand on that question. So you mentioned about process mining. So let's say if I'm a IT director of a company and I'm looking at investing in automation initiative. So what should be my selection criteria for all of these, for lack of a better word, bubbles that are created out of the BPM technology area? So what should be my selection criteria if I'm going ahead and looking at some of these technologies in the BPM world? RPA, BPA, task mining, process mining, and other tools. So do we have any decision criteria that's already there in the market?
That's a great question, Abhishek, and it's a sort of it's becoming complex in the market also right now. To be honest, if you look at some of the mega vendors in this market, maybe I can call upon one or two, say Pega Systems or Appian, and even if you look at some of our competitors from Flowable perspective, they're starting to sort of build capabilities across the ecosystem. So if you're sort of looking at some of the vendors like Appian or Pega, they actually play in each of the markets. So they have acquired process mining capabilities by acquiring certain companies. They have task mining capabilities by acquiring certain companies. Then they have their own sort of BPA capabilities that they were originally known for. They've also acquired RPA. So there are certain vendors in the market. And in the similar vein, you can call out SAP. They acquired Signavio, and they have sort of whole sort of suite of capabilities. Similar, you have IBM. So there are vendors in the market that have all the capabilities across the range. So when you're looking at as an executive, you have a choice to make whether you want one suite where you go ahead and have all the technologies in place, and you start with process mining because you want to understand the processes first, or map your processes first, and then look at your tasks or look at your processes, choreograph them, automate them, and then repeat the cycle to understand whether it's performing well or not. On the other hand, there are vendors like Flowable in the market, which are sort of a best of the breed solution where we can integrate. Flowable can integrate, say, with a process mining software, with an RPA software, with a Salesforce, and then you sort of take a decision whether you want to go the next step or not, whether you want to use X things or not. So that's the decision criteria right now. It actually is a bit more complex in a sense when you look at the overlaps these technologies might have. But once you understand the end goal, that what you want to achieve with your process, and that's what actually BPM is all about. Once you understand that, hey, these are 5 things that we need to tackle in next 2 or 3 years, then you quite frankly understand, hey, we need task automation first, then we need choreography, then we need analytics maybe, and then maybe what God knows what comes next, maybe AI or something. But yeah, the starting point is always understanding the process, understanding the root cause of the problem, without throwing technology or without throwing fancy terms on top of it. So that's the simple criteria, Abhishek, the basic criteria, that you understand the process, then you sort of break it down into next 2 or 3 years how it should look like, and then you sort of do a reverse calculation to understand whether we need task automation first, what we need. Yeah.
Got it. So there are BPM platform vendors or who provide the entire, I guess, quote unquote, life cycle or perspective on BPM, and then a bunch of tools that are point solutions that or best of breed solutions for kind of individual parts. And you mentioned some of the more incumbent or legacy providers out there that cover the BPM space and how it could be appealing to use an entire platform. But I think we understand now there's no such thing as a BPM technology, but there may be BPM platforms that encompass many of the underlying technologies.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to, let's say, the individual parts of BPM, so actually it'd be good to let's kind of get some names out there. So when it comes to overall BPM platforms, who are the 2 to 3 main players? And when it comes to the individual parts of the BPM process, are there 1 or 2 players that are worth mentioning there as challengers or upstarts or significant players? It would be good to understand the vendor landscape or solution landscape, if you will.
Absolutely. So I can give you a broad overview of what vendors are actually present in those markets. Maybe it's not appropriate to call them leaders, maybe, but yeah, those are one of the biggest vendors in those markets. So if I maybe start with process mining, you'll see Celonis as one of the topmost sort of vendor out there. Then Signavio you have, and there are many. This is a crowded market with more than 20 vendors in the recent Gartner Magic Quadrant for process mining. But if I have to sort of take out a couple of vendors, then yeah, you have Celonis, then you have Signavio as one of the top 2 vendors in the market across multiple analyst firms from Forrester or Gartner. These are the top 2 or 3 firms that will come out. Then if you look at, say, for an example, RPA, the top 2 or 3 firms that come out are, one is UiPath, the second is you have a look at, say, Blue Prism, that say gives you sort of a huge chunk of market that both of those cover. And when you look at BPA specifically from process automation, now if I may call, so if we recall that there are 2 sort of types of vendors here. So if you look at Pega, APM, those are more of a sort of every sort of covering, encompassing all the technology. So they're present in all the markets. But apart from that, you have players like Flowable, Camunda, then you have other players in the market that cover a chunk of this market. And basically those are more of a process automation and orchestration vendors. So these are I would say some of the top vendors in these markets that cover this whole landscape. Then there are some adjacent markets like task mining or analytics, where you have a lot of vendors which might be covered in some of these vendors, but yeah, there are some small startups that are also playing in these areas. They're trying to innovate. They're trying to partner with bigger organizations. So yeah, this is a crowded sort of a market with a lot of enterprises here vying for the space. Yeah,
I can totally see that. Yes, this is very insightful. So, if there were, let's say, 3 or 4 takeaways today from our conversation, I think it'd be good for the audience to kind of, have something to walk away with. I love, number one, the distinction between BPM as not really a one stop technology. It's a complex suite of tools that may be present in some overall platforms, but oftentimes you combine point solutions and create a cohesive strategy. Second is that this is a space that has been around for a long time and has evolved in many ways, and the needs for BPM tend to emerge a lot around the financial services sector, the public sector, complex omni-channel plays. So there's and the triggers tend to arise, like you said, out of people issues, if you will, right?
yeah.
And what would be, like, to say, another 1 or 2 takeaways you think we should add to that list?
I would say one of the biggest takeaways from my perspective is that uh, these these technologies have very different use cases. So it's important that executives and enterprise understand that there are separate use cases and separate uh, sort of boxing of these technologies, if I may call it, and do not confuse between them. So that's one of my sort of biggest sort of opinion. Also, I've been sort of articulating this from a long point in time. But yeah, that's I would say bottoms out. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was one of the key takeaways for me as well. There are these different technologies that might have common use cases they cater to. So, and an organization should not go ahead and invest in multiple technologies coming in from the BPM umbrella without finding a proper use case for it. So, because they might go ahead and use overlapping technology for a common use case, that might increase their IT budgets. So, I think they can also lean back to Tailorflow in helping them kind of go ahead and evaluate some of these areas too.
Exactly. Yeah, we should get something up for BPM soon. So folks, this has been great, very insightful. I'd like to thank my amazing co-host Abhishek, and of course our guest Tushar, for all the insights and the depth of this conversation. We hope to have you again in the future. Um, and yeah, if you want any help making technology decisions, I highly recommend you take a look at Tailorflow. That's tailorflow.ai to advance your vendor research much faster in BPM and other spaces, adjacent spaces. And yeah, this is the inaugural podcast. So thank you, Tushar, for the honor of being our inaugural guest. And we're excited to share this podcast with the world, and looking forward to the questions for a potential future pod, diving further into process mining and BPM and BPM and related technologies. All right. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.